A pleasant Friday, everybody, and TGIF as we hit the First Call podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk, representing First Bet and Express Bet. On Fridays, we handicap stakes, and we've got a lot to dive into this week. It's the Winter Carnival at Laurel Park, a big one there with the Fritchie, and also we're going to get the General George Stakes, those traditional President's Day weekend races, and good racing coast to coast. But really, Jeff, New Orleans is where it's at this Saturday.
Great card. I mean, great. Several stakes races, all very challenging, all offering good value if you land on one you really like. So we'll be looking at that. Good racing around the country too. Gulfstream and Santa Anita loaded up. So that's going to be worth looking at as well. And looking at the stakes races around the country, you mentioned Laurel and Fairgrounds and Santa Anita. So we're going to be concentrating on the big races on those tracks this weekend.
And I'm concentrating on the last 5 races at Gulfstream and the first 5 races at Santa Anita on Saturday, because I'm in the chair for week 7 of the Express Bet Beat the Host contest, 19th season for Beat the Host. And this weekend, I'm the host in the spotlight, if you will. Take me on for your chance to win your share of weekly and seasonal prizes. When we get around to talking about Beat the Host, I'll give you a little update on what's going on in that contest. There's one particular player I got my eye on this week. So Alexander Bertram, I'm coming for you. He's the only player left out of more than 800 players who has a chance to sweep the host. He's got to beat me, and he's got to beat Eddie Olczyk next week, and he wins $6,000. It was pulled off last year by Tom Bassett. We'll see if we can get back-to-back winners of the sweep the host bonus with just a single person doing it. Alexander Bertram, I hope you're handicapping right now and getting ready. I'm not even going to give you my pick ahead of time for the race we have from Gulfstream on the show because I don't want to give away any of the advantages here. All right, for the benefit of those of you watching on our YouTube channel or on Twitter, be sure to reshare this, hit the like button, hit us up in the comment section as well in YouTube. Help us spread the audience for this show. Also, those longtime listeners on our audio channels, here for your benefit is the schedule of races we will handicap for Saturday, February the 17th. At Gulfstream Park, we look at the Royal Delta Stakes in the Distaff division. To Laurel we go, where we mentioned it's the Winter Carnival. 4 stakes overall at Laurel. They've got the John B. Campbell and the Nellie Morse. We're going to handicap the 2 graded stakes on this show, the Barbara Fritchie and the General George. At Fairgrounds, where there are 5 stakes in succession, 6 stakes overall, we will look at 4 of those, the Mine Shaft, the Fairgrounds Stakes, the Rachel Alexandra in the Oaks division, and the Risen Star on the road to the Triple Crown. Big race there in the 3-year-old division. And the 3-year-olds are also spotlighted Saturday at Santa Anita, but the Turf Sprinters, the Baffle Stakes, the feature race there. So those are our 8 stakes races. As we mentioned, the Beat the Host, one of the featured tournaments this weekend at expressbet.com, but you can also play in some feeder tournaments for just $40 entry Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Gulfstream Park, Friday and Sunday at Santa Anita. And then Saturday at Santa Anita is the $500 Santa Anita Challenge. If you want to play in that high roller tournament, be sure to check out all the rules and all the engagements and register for that at expressbet.com/tournaments. Check it out. Beat the Host. I'm looking forward to that on Saturday. Well, Jeff, one of those Beat the Host races that we will handicap starts right off. It's race number 11 at Gulfstream Park. The Royal Delta Stakes, named for the Breeders' Cup Distaff winner for trainer Bill Mott. Mile and 16th on the main track. And to me, you're always like hoping to find some inside speed going a mile and 16th on the main at Gulfstream. Doesn't always present itself. This race doesn't really have a lot of early speed towards the inside of the starting gate. So you want that advantage if you can find it, but you can't force it. How did you see this race, the Royal Delta?
I have an angle that I always lean on. It's not an automatic play, but if everything else falls into place, then I go with it. And that's first time around 2 turns. Now, Mary Quite Contrary has been a mile, and she's done that well, but she's never actually, to my knowledge, run around 2 turns. Most of her mile races are 1-turn mile, all of them that I can see. So she's stretching out, theoretically. It's hard to ignore 7 wins and 10 starts lifetime over the main track at Gulfstream Park. She was a tad disappointing last time when she was out-footed early. They kind of ran away from her, and she got a little too far back, and she finished steadily, but no real blast. And I just think that maybe now going long from an inside draw, catching a much softer, more comfortable pace scenario, she might put herself in the race here and find herself close up. Now, you could make a case, oh, no, she's just a late running 1-turn horse. And that's possible. That's absolutely possible. But she's also 7-2 in the morning line, and you're not going to get that price very often. So I for her. So I think that maybe it's worth a gamble if around that price. I wouldn't take her at a real short price, but nothing else really catches my eye, although there are a few in here that you could certainly make a strong case for. But I know Mary Quite Contrary loves the track. I love her draw. She's got numbers that are very solid. Even though she was beaten last time as the favorite, she earned a 90 bar number in the inside information. So she didn't really run badly. She just got outfooted. But I don't think she's going to have to be that fast here. So I like number 2, Mary Quite Contrary. I'm going to gamble on her. If she can't route, probably won't win. But if she can, and the pedigree says she could, she might offer some pretty good value.
She's had 4 different trainers, and this will be the first time they stretch her out in distance. So it's not just like one guy didn't decide to do it. It's not broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, she's been winning races with the one-turn nature, but she's by first dude. That's route. She's out of a Mechie mare, which is as route as you can get in the Florida ranks. I mean, remember Mechie back in the day, and anything by Mechie you would think would want distance. So Mary Quite Contrary, the only common thing we've seen with her is Luca Panici, the jockey. He's been aboard the entire time. He stays aboard here. She draws well in the 2-hole. I mentioned you like to find inside speed. She's not going to be front-running speed because she's a closer, but she'll have more pace about her in a 2-turn race than 1, but saving ground with that short run into the first turn does not hurt one bit at 1.16 miles at Gulfstream Park. She's not going to give anything away. That's the way Jeff sees the Royal Delta Stakes. I'm going to keep a whole card here, Jeff. I'm not going to reveal who I like because it's part of the Beat the Host contest. So anybody playing the contest, you'll find out at post time when the horses leave the starting gate for the Royal Delta Stakes. Let's go to Laurel Park now on Saturday, where I promise I'll give you any opinions I have on those races. Love the racing at Laurel. The Winter Carnival with the 2 graded stakes races for the Sprinter. Traditional President's Day weekend. We used to run these races on President's Day proper. It was a good day off school and a day to go to the track as a kid. Now we run them on Saturday. Barbara Fritchie and the General George, the co-features on Saturday. Let's start first with the Fritchie. I made this the Express Bet race of the week because I think we're going to have a short price in the General George. But the Barbara Fritchie, a good-looking betting race in here. 7 furlongs, grade 3 company, Jeff. You've got some horses coming north from Florida, Intrepid Daydream, Bluefield. You had mentioned that inside information stakes just a minute ago when we talked about the Royal Delta at Gulfstream, where Mary Quite Contrary ran 3rd. The runner-up that day was Bluefield, and she's coming north for trainer Safi Joseph. Let's give the fans a chance to see and hear that race last time out in the inside information. Pete Iola with the call from Gulfstream.
Side, here's Intrepid Daydream. Now Mary Quite Contrary starts to hit high gear. She's in the orange colors on the far outside. Off the turn and the stretch drive. The leader is Olivia Darling, a length and a half. Intrepid Daydream trying to get on terms. Bluefield closing at them from the outside, and Mary Quite Contrary, she just has too far to come. There's a 16th to go. Irad Ortiz Jr. will get victory 5 on the program. The inside information to Olivia Darling.
Now, Olivia Darling's not coming north, but 2 of those that ran in there, Bluefield and the other Safi trainee, Intrepid Daydream, who was 4th in that spot, are coming north for the Barbara Fritchie. And to me, it comes down to those 2, Jeff. I like both of those in this particular spot. Bluefield, Intrepid Daydream, Bluefield have both been at Laurel in the past. They're kind of making homecomings and have run very well here over the track.
Yeah, they got the 2 Safis here, and never real excited about playing a race in which the 2 favorites, 2 logical top picks for the same barn. So I picked Bluefield just because she actually ran better in that race than Intrepid Daydream, who kind of like waved the white flag, didn't finish with a whole lot left and faded out of the picture. But they've taken turns. I mean, they've beaten each other, so it's not that Intrepid Daydream couldn't regain her best form here. Both, obviously have proven winning form. Bluefield, she's won 3 races here. She's first or second, 12 out of 22. She doesn't have a lot of gate speed, but she kind of settles in the second flight and kind of grinds it out. So I went with her on top, not with a real great conviction here, but I think Safi's got the power here. And I think at this stage anyway, I'd have to prefer, based on what I just saw, Bluefield over Intrepid Daydream.
I'm hoping that back at Laurel that Intrepid Daydream can turn the tables. Getting Heavy and Toledo back aboard. They're a very successful teaming up together. We're on a good win streak before going to Florida. The 2 races in Florida, somewhat disappointing, beaten at 6-5 and then at 5-2 again. Like you said, threw up the white flag in that race in the inside information. I'm hoping Intrepid Daydream likes the homecoming at Laurel Park and gets a better price off of that head-to-head matchup last time. So a little more value, and I'm hoping the home team swings things. You don't go wrong wrong with Jaime Rodriguez riding for Bluefield, good local pilot. But I like Toledo going back aboard Intrepid Daydream. That's going to be my pick in there. Curious to see how far Disco Ebo goes on the front for trainer Butch Reed. Reed's having a good year. Of course, just won last week up in New York in the Withers Stakes. Butch Reed brings what could be lone speed in from Parks and Disco Ebo. There's not a ton of early pace in this year's 7 furlong Barbara Fritchie. We'll see how far Disco Ebo can go on the front end. Those Parks horses coming to Laurel, kind of hit or miss. It's not, they don't all bring their form with them. So I'm not sure how far that one's going to go. But if the track's playing to speed, we will definitely know. Of course, everything on the main track this time of year in Maryland, you get to race number 8 in the card. And if speed is just holding all day, then maybe Disco Ebo moves up a little bit in your estimation. Let's go next to the General George Stakes. It's race number 9 on the card at Laurel Park. This one's been won by some really good sprinters over the decades. And we've got more of a local field this year than typical for this $200,000 grade 3. We'll usually see some horses come from New York, up from Florida, like we did in the Philly race to Barbara Fritchie. But there's a good reason nobody's coming in from out of town. And when you see this, it's because of the local horse Post Time. He's never lost at Laurel. 5 for 5 here locally. In fact, he's only been beaten a length in his entire career, and that was in the Perryville, where he was finishing well at Keeneland last year. This is a really talented local horse, Jeff, and they're going to have their running shoes on to beat Post Time. I think that's why nobody came in from out of town.
Well, he's not a real fast horse. He's a terrific sprinter, but he likes to, kind of gather himself and get into his rhythm. And then when you chirp to him at the top of the stretch, he takes hold. And he's made hard work of it a couple of times. And most of the time, he's just by himself at the end, as he was in the Jennings. And he earned a triple-digit buy number in that race. Now, that was a sloppy track race.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like he hasn't run fast on fast ground and dry track. And I look at his form, and it's just hard to go against 5 for 5. You can't get much more perfect than that. Maybe 6 for 6, which he will be if he wins the General George. But I mean, Brittany Russell's done a great job, not only of training him, but of giving him enough time in between races. He lays his body down, and he's only sent out when he's doing really well. And you can see by the work tab since his last race. I mean, he's got a bullet work. He's got to be doing well, fastest at 58.
Yeah.
So I don't see. I mean, I'm not saying it's a great gamble at 6 to 5, but you got to be a brave soul to pick against him, and I'm not going to try to do that.
Now, that long stretch in the mile races at Laurel where they go to the second wire, that was in play last time, and maybe that inflated a little bit of the finish margin, but it's 7/8 of a mile. He's been timed up well in the past. So let's take a look at his win in the Jennings Post Time on a wet track, and hopefully we get drier going on Saturday.
Post Time getting interested. Here's Post Time second to last, but near the inside now. Post Time now has about 4 to make up at the quarter pole, top of the stretch, second wire finish, and it is all threes has come away with the lead. Post Time set down for the final furlong, and Post Time gets a chirp there from Sheldon Russell, goes on, opens up 3, opens up 4, 7's 11 and all threes with a 16th left to go. Post Time to jog in the Jennings. Post Time by about 5 at the finish.
The way he finishes, I don't think you're going to outkick him for the win. If you're going to upset Post Time in this year's General George, it's almost going to have to come from the front. But then when you handicap this race, there's a lot of horses who are kind of milers on the turn back. And you got Nimitz Class coming out of the Pegasus World Cup. He's got great local form, but he's been a router at Laurel. So, who's the sprinter in here? No Sense, the one, maybe with just rail speed, go into the lead for Cal Lynch and see how far maybe that one can take him. Maybe No Sense on top, Post Time to nail him, in the stretch is the way to play the exact in here. I got to think some speed horse in this race is the only way you're going to upset this runner.
You'd have to think so, but it better be one of those easy front running trips with no pressure and slow pace.
Right.
If Post Time's on top of you at the top of the stretch, which I suspect he will be, you're not gonna outkick him. You can't. I mean, even the last race, he was, kind of playing with his rivals at the top of the stretch, ended up winning by more than 6 and was actually eased up in the final 16. So he put a massive run from the top of the stretch, from let's say the quarter pole to the 8th pole, and then it was all over. And what a neat horse he is. He's a 4-year-old, but again, only 7 starts. numbers are fast. They've risen recently. I'd like to see him win this race, Jeremy, and then I'd like to see him go out and enter the big leagues, the majors. You know what I'm saying? I want to see how good he is. And I think I don't know whether he's a Met Mile type of horse. Nothing that he's done would indicate that he's beaten anything that he'd have to beat that day. But what a nice horse, and I think he's ready to step out. And I
agree.
That's a total chance after this race.
Yeah, we'll see. Brittany Russell sent quite a few horses up to New York this winter. Maybe something like Carter a little bit later in the spring, a race like that to test him and see where he's at. Maybe back to Keeneland for something during the spring meet. We saw him go to Keeneland last fall and run pretty admirably. So post time, very exciting horse. If you want to bet him or bet against him, we've got a $10 money back special for you on all the races Saturday at Laurel Park for Winter Carnival Day. So that means if your win bet finishes second or third, you get up to $10 of that bet back in your account in the form of wagering credit. So you've got a little insurance to work with on Saturday at Laurel Park on the entire program. Again, 4 stakes races, but every race on the card has that $10 money back special when you play in Laurel Saturday. So be sure to do so with Express Bet and First Bet, where that offer will be given for the $10 money back special. Let's turn our attention now to New Orleans Fairgrounds, where it is a big day of 6 stakes races. Kentucky Oaks fillies, Kentucky Derby colts, all in the spotlight. Of course, we got some horses for the handicap division and some grass races as well on the undercard. We're going to start things off with the Mine Shaft. It's race number 11 on the card, and this is part of an all-stakes pick 5 with a $25,000 hit and split. That's right, $25,000 hit and split with the late pick 5 on Saturday at Fairgrounds, only when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. That means if you hit the late pick 5, congrats, you're going to get your pari-mutuel winnings. Then you're going to share your take of $25,000 just with other players at First Bet and Express Bet who also hit that wager. To my knowledge, it's the biggest hit and split we've given. I can't remember one of $25,000 in one dollop like that. So even if 1,000 people hit it, you're going to get $25 extra on your payoff just for playing it with Express Bet and First Bet. The chance of 1,000 people hitting it, that would have to be awfully chalky. So you've got a chance to really make a big score. Be sure to play that. We're going to get some help with that all-stakes pick 5 and the hit and split in just a few minutes with Eddie Olczyk checking in on the podcast via video. So, Jeff, let's start our handicapping with the Mine Shaft in race number 11. Named for the Neil Howard trainee, who was Horse of the Year, top handicap division runner several years back. This is a 1.1 miles on the main track. It'll be a prep for the New Orleans Classic, the big race for the Classic division coming up on Louisiana Derby Day. A lot of these preps today on Risen Star Day will set them up in a month's time for Louisiana Derby Day. 1.1 miles here, and these are some horses that at points in their career, I thought they were a little more than they turned out to be, and some other horses who are just trying to find their way. When you've got Red Route 1, WNL, Happy American, Smile Happy, horses like that, they've teased that they could be towards the top of the handicap division, but then they've kind of let us down. How do we shake this one out?
Well, I'm not picking Smile Happy, so he'll probably win by 10. I can never hook up with him. I looked at the race, not a lot of speed. That's pretty obvious. I mean, best actor. He may be a committed front runner, but he doesn't need the lead to win. He's proven that over the years. Remember when he ran way back in September of 22 in the Oklahoma Derby, and he looked like he was going to be the goods following a series of really good races, and he flopped. Then he was off for several months. So I'm going to assume that something went wrong there. And now it looks like, last summer he had a couple of nice runs, won an allowance race, kind of a confidence building win, came back and won another one at Churchill, but the numbers were stakes quality. I mean, he really earned good numbers. He's freshened since November. He looks like that Brad Cox has kind of put the hammer to him in the morning to make sure he's fit and ready. Flavian Pratt rides, loads him well. Good inside draw. He can kind of go to the front if he wants. If someone's committed, he knows that this horse can sit second or third. He's run well as far back as 5th early on. So there's a lot of versatility here for this lightly raced 5-year-old son of Flatter who's only had 9 starts, 5 wins, 2 seconds, and a third. There's something more, I think, that he hasn't yet shown us. And he's shown us he's pretty fast, but not against the top competition or quality competition. He has a chance now to show that he can do that against better horses. So at 3-1 in the morning line, it's not a great price, but it's one I'll take if I can get it. I like number 3, Best Actor, to continue his winning ways and win at Fairgrounds.
He takes the baton from his Brad Cox stablemate, Saudi Crown, who won the last race in this series on Lecomte Day. That was the Louisiana Stakes. So as they prep again towards the New Orleans Classic, you had the Louisiana Stakes, now the Mine Shaft, and then we go on, to the next step of the series in the New Orleans Classic. Saudi Crown was dominant that day against several of these horses who come back. Saudi Crown heading to the Saudi Cup, $20 million race coming up next Saturday in Riyadh. So we don't have that one to worry about. So Best Actor could step up here and find the competition to his liking. He sure did last time at Churchill and Allowance Company.
They're off the turn. Best Actor heads for home. Obezo's far outside. Injunction in between. Best Actor down inside in front a length and a half at the 8th pole. And now it's 2. Injunction trying hard. Still second. Obezo's gives way. Best Actor finishing full of run all the way to the wire. And Best Actor scores. Final margin 2.5.
Now, in here, we've got Smile Happy, who's maybe my favorite horse in training right now, but off his last race, I just can't back him. He was bad to the bone that day in the return race. Just didn't show anything. Kenny McPeak's barn's going pretty well this winter. Maybe he bounces back, but he's going to have to do it with just my rooting interest and not my financial interest in there. I will be rooting for Smile Happy, but I will not be gambling on him on Saturday. Now we go to race number 12 on the Fairgrounds card. It is the Fairgrounds Stakes, aptly named, grade 3 mile and an 1/8 here. And this is a deep field, Jeff. This is one of the better betting races on a tough program, top to bottom. We talked about all the stakes races. Before we jump into this 12th, I want to let fans know you want to watch race 3 on the card. This is a really good 3-year-old allowance race where Nash is in there. He was the beaten favorite in the first 2 races of the Louisiana Derby series. Brad Cox is dropping him in class, trying to get a confidence boost and then getting back on the Kentucky Derby trail. Race number 3 with Nash, who's an electric horse who's got a lot of speed and talent, but he's been beaten in his last 2. We'll see if he can get back on the beam. So be sure to check out race 3. But race 12 is going to be an excellent betting race. One of the best betting races on the card. Again, 1 mile and an 1/8 on the grass. Give us your thoughts on the Fairgrounds Stakes.
Well, you've got 2 ways to go here. You can zero in on the Colonel Bradley, which has the first 3 finishers coming back, and you can look at that race and try to get a feel as to if you want to take one out of that race, or if you think maybe Strong Quality can come back and do it again, and he's very solid, or maybe bypass that race and then go for some outsider, some horse that's out of a different race, maybe a softer race. I went the latter. I ended up going with Chasing the Crown, who obviously was not in that race, so he's coming out of allowance races, but numbers wise, he's every bit as fast on speed figures as those horses that are coming out of that race. And he's only had 10 starts, so there's reason to believe that maybe we have not seen his best yet. He's a versatile horse where he can lay reasonably close, not on the front, but he can lay, second flight and then kick home, as he did in his most recent race here at Fairgrounds last month. That was his first starts of September. He earned a career top buyer number in that race, so he came back better than he left. And as a 5-year-old, he should be ready to pick up where he left off. I love the 2-hole draw. And, he's better than 8-1 in the morning line. I'll tell you that. That's what he is. And based on how I evaluate these horses, he's as good as anything in the race. Now, maybe not better, but he's as good. And at the price, that's what I'm going to go for, Chasing the Crown.
Yeah, and the value should hold with Rosario jumping off the right beatbox. And here you get Jareth Loveberry, of course, second in the Kentucky Derby last year. People on the national scene will know that, but a very good Midwestern rider, and he's had an excellent meet at Fairgrounds. Team with Mike Maker here. You're going to get a better price because Rosario, the name rider, I mean, you're getting less of a Fairgrounds national simulcast audience than you are a coast-to-coast simulcast audience on a day like this. So the top jocks like a Rosario are going to get overbet on days like this. Gaffleone, the guy shipping in to ride at Fairgrounds. So you're going to get your value there with Chasing the Crown. One of the horses that we talked about, Beatbox, where Rosario does end up, was part of the photo finish in the Colonel E.R. Bradley. He's rematched with Strong Quality. Top 3 from that race, as Jeff already mentioned, coming back from that spot. Let's give the fans a chance for a listen and a hear of that race with John Dooley on the mic. This is Strong Quality winning the Colonel E.R. Bradley. And don't look to the right to the inside rail. Everybody's out in the middle of the track in this one.
coming with a sweep. Within between horses, English Tavern, Duke of Carthania, Protonic Power near the rail, Strong Quality, 3/4. 1 minute 12.80 seconds. Coming down to the final furlong. It is Strong Quality, Beatbox, charging hard on the outside. Strong Quality and Beatbox. Rising Empire, English Tavern, Duke of Carthania. It's Strong Quality, Beatbox. Driving finish, Strong Quality on the wire in the Colonel Bradley Stakes. Beatbox was next, and then Rising Empire, Duke of Carthania, English Tavern, and Protonic Power.
Yeah, Jeff, just an interesting point here. When you talked about all these horses coming out of the same race, do you want to take that result and trust it, or do you want to go for a fresh face? When they're all out in the middle of the track like that in a strangely run race, maybe that is a race to kind of think, okay, well, let's just look somewhere else, because I don't necessarily trust the result to run back the same way. From a trip handicapping standpoint and the way that race shape was, maybe it's a good spot to look for another horse somewhere else. That's what I always, when I've got a race with a lot of horses rematched, whether we're talking a claimer somewhere at Turf Paradise or one of these stakes races on our show, if they're rematched out of the same race, I like to watch it back and say, can I trust this result again, or am I looking for something else? And that race looks a little odd to me on video watching it back. So maybe you're on the right path there with a horse like Chasing the Crown, somebody who wasn't in the Colonel E.R. Bradley.
One thing I also noticed is that when you get an exacta of horses coming out of the same race, it generally plays less than it should. For whatever reason. So you play exactas and you're going to, I'm going to use Strong Quality with the solo beatbox and
Underlay.
You're going to get underlaid for sure.
Yep.
The other thing about that race is a Strong Quality won that gate to wire. So he did it under pristine conditions. He showed a lot of guts to hang on. I'll give him that.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he could potentially get the same kind of trip. But those are the kind of horses that I tend not to want to try to bet back to do the same thing they just did, because he just got his great trip.
Right.
He may get it again, but if he doesn't, then you're really taking the worst of it. So.
Gigante won to watch in there too, because he won the Wood Chopper back in December, and then he was a 3-year-old at that time, now turns 4. So he's going to get older horses for the first time in stakes company. This is a step up in class, but he wasn't in that last race, so he is a fresh face to the scene in here, and he's won 2 in a row, the Commonwealth at Churchill prior to that. So Gigante from Off the Pace one, I think, that also deserves a little bit of look in there. But I always caution when these horses who have been running against just 3-year-olds on turf, that's like a double restriction, right? They're age restricted, and they're just the grass horses among the 3-year-olds. That's not a great sample size of horses. When you get into that open company, older category, you've got to prove yourself again. So I wouldn't take a short price on Gigante, even with back-to-back wins, because this is a significant step up in class, taking on older horses of all ages at this point, and not that kind of double restriction. So keep that in mind. But if you get a good enough price on him and he looks good to you, maybe Gigante one to watch there in the 12th. Let's go to race number 13, the Rachel Alexandra Stakes. I'd like to tell you who these races are named after, but if I told you this, I'd be insulting your intelligence. Everybody knows Rachel Alexandra, the great by on the 16th, grade 2 race here. This is a prep towards the Kentucky Oaks, a prep for the Fairgrounds Oaks directly. And the Fairgrounds Oaks has been a very important race towards the Kentucky Oaks over the last decade, 15 years. So we want to keep our eye on the fillies coming out of this race. Of course, last year we saw Pretty Mischievous come through this part of the country for trainer Brendan Walsh. Walsh is back, Jeff. He's got Intricate in here, and he's got a shot maybe for back-to-back Kentucky Oaks.
No question. Intricate's a very good filly, a daughter of a gun runner. They kind of gave her a little bit of a run first time out sprinting, made a lot of sense just to get her feet wet, not crank her up. Then they stretched her out in a maiden race at Keeneland. That's always a good place to try to do that. She won that for fun, and then comes back and wins the Golden Rod. Very impressive. And then they put her away. That makes sense too, right? She's got her grade 2 stakes win on the resume. That's not much more that they can do last year. So let's kind of back off just a little bit, let her grow up a little bit and find herself. And now she's coming back in a logical spot. The work tab isn't anything great, but it should have her fit enough. And I think she's a quality filly, and I think she's going to go on and have a heck of a 3-year-old season here. And I don't think that she's 100%. She may not have to be, although this is a good race. I mean, Alpine Princess, a good filly, in West Omaha. Those are seasoned, good, legitimate fillies. And if Intricate is only 80, 90%, she could find herself vulnerable. But I'm thinking that she's going to overcome the layoff and fire a big shot and then go on and do bigger and better things. I'm going with Intricate at 3-1. Again, that's a gambling number for me. I wouldn't take her at 6-5, but at 3-1, I can live with that.
Yeah, this is a field of 7 that has some speed about it, so it's not going to be like this clump of horses and a lot of traffic. They're going to be a little bit spread in here, and really no excuses. Smaller field size, enough speed to stretch things out a little bit. She should get her run, and when she got through at Churchill in the Goldenrod, it was game over. Let's go back and watch that one with Travis Stone.
West Sunset surrounded by challengers. Wide off the turn, Dozen Diamonds. Torpedo Anna's there. Intricate finds a seam in between, and she shoots on through. Intricate grabs the lead right at the 8th pole. Dozen Diamonds fighting on with Torpedo Anna. Gin and Central Avenue running on from the back, but they're into the final 16th, and Intricate has gone clear by 4 in a picture-perfect ride from Gaffleone. They score in the Goldenrod over Torpedo Anna, Central Avenue, and Dozen Diamond.
Now, you got to beat Brad Cox and Steve Asmussen to get the money, and that's not easy to do at Fairgrounds. I went back and looked through the BetMix database. In these 3-year-old filly races, the 2- and 3-year-old stakes races at Fairgrounds, the last 19 of them run, I think it was over a 5-year period, 13 wins for Cox or Asmussen in those 19 stakes races. And Brad's got 3 in here. He's got Tarifa. He's also got West Omaha that you mentioned earlier, and Alpine Princess that you mentioned. And then Steve's got, he counters with Perfect Shot, who was the runner-up last time in the Silver Bullet Day. So to beat Cox and Asmussen, you've got to work for it down at Fairgrounds. But Intricate, she looks like the real deal.
Yeah, I think she is. And, you look at a closer, and sometimes when they get up in the last 70 yards, it's exciting and all that. But Intricate was on top of those horses at the 3/16 pole.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like she had to come from way out of it and get a lot of help to win that race. 3/4 and 12 and 2. So I mean, she wasn't trying to wear down weary horses, and she just blew past them. So she has the look, and she still has to go out and do it, but she has the look of a dominant filly this year if she matures as you'd expect the gun runners to do, just like he did.
If you are playing that $25,000 all stakes pick 5 hit and split with First Bet and Express Bet on Saturday, which you should be, 25,000 good reasons to play it with us. Jeff's giving you Intricate. We also asked Eddie Olczyk who his keys were to this pick 5 sequence, and he and Jeff are in agreement on one of those. So let's take a listen from Edzo with his top 2 plays in the all stakes pick 5.
West Sunset surrounded by challengers. Wide off the turn, Dozen Diamonds.
Let's try that again. Here's Eddie Olczyk with his picks in the pick 5.
Hey everybody, what a promotion we have on Saturday from the Fairgrounds, the Lake Pit 5, the $25,000 promotion. Hit it and split it. Make sure you get involved, and I have 2 keys to that Lake Pit 5 at the Fairgrounds. Let's start off in race 11, number 4, Gasoline. Ran off the screen 2 races back at Churchill Downs. The last 2 races really never threatened, but those races he ran Lasix free. Today, back on Lasix in this graded stake try. Only speed in the race is the 3-horse, in my opinion, is Best Actor, hoping Gasoline trips out. My first key to the pick 5 at Fairgrounds, race 11, number 4, Gasoline. And my other key to the pick 5 is in race 13, number 4, Intricate. Looking for 3 in a row after winning the Grade 2 Goldenrod in November. This filly looks very primed for a tremendous career, sitting on a huge race here at the Fairgrounds. I'd be very happy with 2-1 at post time. For me, the filly to beat. Best of luck, everybody.
All right, so Eddie and Jeff are in on Intricate. Jeff's got Best Actor and Gasoline to pick for Eddie in race 11. Maybe too deep in there with the 2 controlling horses up front. If you single Intricate, you're only 2 combinations into that pick 5. So our guys have given you some good help. Let's go next on our handicapping schedule to talk about the weekend's big race at Fairgrounds. It's the Risen Star Stakes, Grade 2, 1 mile and an 1/8 for Kentucky Derby qualifying points, 50 to the winner. So this is basically win and you're in the Kentucky Derby. You're going to have enough points to make it into the big field. $400,000, the purse for the Risen Star Stakes on Saturday. Jeff, we've got a full field in here. We've got 12 runners, and a little bit of everything. We've got some horses from New York. We've got some horses from Florida. We've got a horse from Oaklawn. We've got a good mix of runners in here, and we've got some horses stepping up in class off of big wins at the meet. This is what you want to see. This is a regional clash, interregional, and there are some high-quality runners in here. In my countdown to the Crown rankings, I've got 5 or 6 of these amongst the top 20 right now. This is a fantastic race, the Risen Star Stakes, and there are a lot of different ways you can turn.
There is, and looking at this race like this, the natural inclination for all handicappers is, okay, we have a big field. Where are the players going to be on the board here? Who's going to be in front? Who's going to draft in and be second? The pace going to be fast? Do the deep closers have a chance? You go through all those gyrations, and that's normally what I would do. But here, I don't care about that. The only thing I care about is Sierra Leone because I really think he's a quality colt, and I think he's a major player in this year's Triple Crown. Again, $2.3 million yearling by Gun Runner. I mean, Gun Runner is not, for me, Gun Runner isn't quite curling yet, but he's getting there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they all seem to get better with age. And here's Sierra Leone, obviously very regarded. It must be a great looking colt to be bringing that kind of money as a yearling. Wins his debut. They were probably just kind of giving him a run that day, and he still got up and won. And then he comes back, gets nosed out in the Remsen buyout. Colt that I think is a pretty good horse, Dornoch. So 5 clear of everybody else. The third horse came back and won. Nice horse himself. So now he's off, but not off forever. He ran in December 2nd, so he's off for a couple of months. You know, it looks like he hasn't missed a beat at Payson Park for Chad Brown. And here's the interesting thing, Jeremy. Blinkers go on. Now, I don't think they'd be going on unless he had shown in the morning that he was better because of them. And that might put him a little bit more into the race. I don't want him way, way back. You'd like for him to be somewhere in striking distance. I think that's what Chad's playing. So, I mean, he's 4-1 in the morning line. I don't know how the race shapes up for him. I don't care. I'm just like Leone, and I think he's going to build on at 1.125 miles. I think he's going to build on what he showed last year as a 2-year-old, and then become a major player this spring.
You have to assume that Chad Brown's thinking we need the focus at the end of the race for this horse, because if we go back and watch the Remsen, he was gone. He was home free, and then Dornoch came back on him. Let's give the fans a chance to look at that. And if Sierra Leone stays focused through the lane and through the wire, who knows how the Remsen may have turned out.
Here comes the big bounding strides of Sierra Leone from the back of the field. Up top, it's the top of the stretch, and it's Dornoch who's kicked. Dornoch is now opening up that margin. It's Dornoch who's up by 3-4 wide, just ducked in there. Sierra Leone is rolling. Here comes the big bounding strides of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone from last to first. This is a big effort. Battling on is Dornoch, who's back to second. Sierra Leone is dugging in. Dornoch is coming back. Dornoch not done. It's going to be a photo, and I think Dornoch got there. Believe the magic. Dornoch battles back. Sierra Leone is in the photo. Then came drum roll, please. It's a tight photo. It looked like Dornoch in the Remsen.
So we'll see Dornoch in the Fountain of Youth Stakes, and when he makes his 3-year-old debut, we'll know was just the rail good that day, and he was able to battle back. Was Sierra Leone pulling himself up after he made the front, which some horses do, and then putting the blinkers on would alleviate that? We shall see. I have a lot of respect for Sierra Leone. I think he's going to end up the favorite here at post time. I think Track Phantom, who's won the first 2 races of the series, will get play, but I think Sierra Leone's going to take the money in here and be the favorite. And he very well could be the top horse in here, and maybe the top horse in the 3-year-old crop. I mean, we've got to see here towards the Kentucky Derby. Bob Baffert's got some monsters that can't run in the Derby. Fierceness was upended in his 3-year-old debut in the Holy Bull Stakes. So we're trying to figure out who's the top horse that's not Baffert towards the Kentucky Derby. It very well could be Sierra Leone. And we will find out on Saturday if he wins this race. He will move to the head of the class, I think, of the horses eligible to run in the Kentucky Derby. There is a Kentucky Derby future wager this weekend. You can bet that with First Bet and Express Bet. Goes through Sunday at 6 p.m. And again, after you see what happens in the Risen Star, that's going to have a big impact on how that Kentucky Derby future wager is bet. Maybe you're looking for a horse who ran well but not win the race, that gets kind of inflated odds if you're looking to bet the futures this weekend. But if you like Sierra Leone, certainly you want to see him come back with a strong run. Hall of Fame comes off a 10-length victory. I think he's going to get bet. He to me feels like he might even be second choice. I think Track Fandom could be third choice in this race when the wagering goes down. I think that Sierra Leone and Hall of Fame are both going to take money. Jeff, what do you make of Sierra Leone's 10-length win last time out? He won on the undercard for the Lecomte Stakes, ran about 2.5 lengths faster than they ran later in the day in the Lecomte Stakes when Track Phantom won it. I think he's the stronger of the two Asmussen horses.
You're talking about Hall of Fame, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and Hall of Fame won that race by 10, and you pointed out the time and all that. Another gun runner, by the way, so you're not going to get anything negative from me on that colt. The only thing that concerned me a little bit is that at this time of the year, jockeys and jockey agents, they're looking for Derby horses. And I'm pretty sure that Rosario could have ridden him.
Yeah.
Now, it's not, I'm not second guessing him for staying on Track Phantom. I mean, he just won the Lecomte. But the number that he earned that day, and the 90 number, given the easy front running trip that he got, if they being, Rosario, I think they might. I'm not sure if I wouldn't have stayed on Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on what they think of him. They know more about him than I do.
Yeah, I'm curious. If you look at the workout tab, he's only worked once since that race. It was February 3rd. He did not have a work back on the 10th or the 11th. Look at Track Phantom. He ran the same day on the 20th, and he's worked twice since then. And Rosario ends up on Track Phantom. So Steve Asmussen, the trainer, I know every horse is an individual, but they did not look at a horse with just 2 starts and making the stretch out to 1 1/8 in his first stakes race. Hall of Fame needed more work after that race than Track Phantom, who's already been 2 turns several times through all the stakes grind. The horse who actually needed more work in between to get ready for this race was probably Hall of Fame, and he got less work. So my inclination is he's a super talented horse, but he may not have come out of that last race or the work after that race as good as they wanted. So that's where I'm a little, I think he's going to get bet, and that's from a gambling standpoint. I'm happy that he'll get bet in here because I'm going to try to, find other horses in here. I thought Catching Freedom was visually really impressive and a good finish on the back end of his win in the Smarty Jones. He looks a lot like Angel of Empire last year for Brad Cox, who won this race, won the Arkansas Derby, ran 3rd in the Kentucky Derby. I think Catching Freedom is one to watch in here. Christian Torres, the top jockey at Oaklawn, doesn't come for the mount because they go to Luis Saez now. He was the jockey of Angel of Empire. So Cox is going to his A rider right now at this point on the trail with Catching Freedom. So I think that's a good sign. And I'm going to throw one more in here, and he's going to end up being my top pick in here, Jeff, because of the price. I think a lot of Resilience. Resilience for Bill Mott is a horse who really finished up strong last time out at Gulfstream Park. I know it was just a maiden win, but he ran away 4 lengths clear of Skip the Line. Skip the Line's the brother to Arrogate, trained by Todd Pletcher, who's got a big future, and he just dusted him. And I really like that performance from Resilience last time. And I also love the pedigree. When I'm talking Triple Crown horses, I want a Brilliant Sire, and I want Distaff Turf Stamina on the bottom side of the pedigree. This one's by Into Mischief. The second dam is Tranquility Lake. You know her very well. She was outstanding going along on the grass in Southern California. I think Resilience is a horse who's really moving the right direction. I'm hoping we get 10, 15 to 1 in this race, and I think we will. I'm going to give her a shot. John Velasquez coming in, or give him a shot with John Velasquez coming in the ride. There are a lot of great options in this race. I'm going to take the biggest price of the great options.
No, I mean, you can find a lot of horses like that where you look at the form and you say, not good enough. But that's not the issue here. The issue is not what they were, is what they're going to be or what they're going to be in this race. Because 3-year-olds this time of the year, they mature, they develop at different rates. And looking at Catching Freedom, he gives, again, he's got that pattern of love. Every time he runs, he gets a higher buyer number. And he hasn't reached the level that it will require to win this race yet.
Right.
But who's to say he won't reach it on Saturday? And that's where you get 12 to 1. That's the gamble part of it. Getting back to what you pointed out about Hall of Fame and the work tab, I'm not sure that my original assumption is correct, and only that maybe Steve said, I'm not sure I'm even going to run this horse. I mean, Joel, you can ride Track Phantom. We like Hall of Fame. He's missed some time. I'm going to put him in the race. I may not run him.
Mhm.
So why don't you just stick with the horse? I know I'm going to run it on. I mean, that's possible. That's just,
Right.
So I'd be less surprised that Hall of Fame scratches than he does, and maybe winning. I don't know. The point is that it's a good competitive race. It's a mile and an eighth. And like I say, I think Chad's going to want to win this race, to get the points out of the way.
Yeah.
I think he's got Sierra Leone ready to run.
Yeah.
And if he's as good as I think he is, all the other things that go into handicapping this race will still be within his grasp. So anyway, it's a great race. It's one of the stronger Risen Stars. We mentioned the other day that it looked to me like this could have been the Louisiana Derby itself.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I'm not big on exacta boxes. In fact, I'm really averse to it. But in this particular spot where a lot of horses are even and you're going to get prices, this might not be a bad play. And I think Sierra Leone, Resilience, and Catching Freedom would be the three that I would use in the exacta box there. Those are the three that I have the most confidence in.
Yeah.
Track Phantom from the 11 hole, it could be a tougher spot there. And he's got to maintain his form off of winning last time out and keep on keeping on. Some of these other horses are more ascended, I think. So it's an excellent race. There are a lot of good options in there and some good horses that we haven't even talked about in the Risen Star. So enjoy it, and we'll talk about that on Tuesday when we reconvene for It's Official. You can be sure that's going to be high on our list of the top 5 topics of the week next week when we wrap up the racing action from around the country. To Santa Anita, we go for Saturday's Baffle Stakes. It'll be our 8th and final handicapping challenge of the weekend. Also want to remind you on Saturday at Santa Anita, the $500 Santa Anita Challenge handicapping contest. Be sure to check that out. And it's Santa Anita on Saturday. It's also part of the Coast to Coast Pick 5. Here are the Coast to Coast Pick 5 races for you on Saturday for the 17th. At Santa Anita will be races 5 and 7, including the Baffle Stakes at 6:29 Eastern. The Baffle will wrap up the Coast to Coast Pick 5, which also includes races from Gulfstream, races 10, 11, and 12. Of course, the 11th race, the Royal Delta, we've already handicapped for you on the show. So races 11 at Gulfstream and 7 at Santa Anita, part of the Coast to Coast Pick 5, and stakes races, a part of that wager on Saturday. All right, Jeff, let's talk Baffle Stakes now. These are 3-year-olds going down the hill, 6.5 furlongs on the turf course at Santa Anita, 100 grander. How do you like this one?
Baffle, by the way, was the longtime course record holder. The best hillside horse I've ever seen in my life. And you have to go back to 1970, right about that. So that's 50 some odd years ago. I still remember Baffle. And so this is a fitting race to be named. Sometimes we get these crazy names for horses. Why are you running? He was a sprinter. You're running a mile and a half turf for a name now.
Yeah.
But this is Baffle. And definitely is a fitting name to this downhill turf dash. I had a hard time with this race originally. Still do, actually, if you want to know the truth. But there's a colt in here that I think has not shown his best yet. And maybe eventually he'll put it all together. I think he will maybe very soon based on his most recent workout. I'm talking about Voltage, trained by Richard Mandela. This is his recent work. And I mean, he breezes like a good horse. I mean, he just got a nice way of going. His ears are up. He's breezing through 35 and 2, slow as they could hold him. They've been routing him. He's won routing. I think if they just let him use his speed, I think he's going to be much more comfortable, happy, and covers a lot of ground, probably better on grass. He did break his maiden by more than 5 at Del Mar 2 turning, and that's one of the reasons why he was heavily backed in the Del Mar juvenile turf. Hasn't delivered. But the way he breezes, I'm going to give him one more chance because you have to be a good horse to breeze like that. That's how
right. And that's on dirt, but all of his form has been better on turf. So getting back to the grass and sprinting, this could be kind of like one of those that the stars finally align properly. He wants to go fast and he wants to be on grass. So just sprint him down the hill.
That's my thinking. I mean, Baffle himself was not baffled till they put him on the grass.
Last time out ran
Yeah. So, I mean, Voltage to me is a horse that hasn't found himself yet. He shouldn't have any excuses here. It's a small field. It's not a real strong field. He's run some really good races. Last time he was a respectable 4th behind Muth in the San Vicente, but was never really going all that well. So anyway, I'm going to try him. He's 4-1. Mike Smith got to know him last time. And in a 7-runner field in which nothing really I trust, including Voltage. I think Voltage has the highest ceiling. That's where I'm going. Both between the back.
And you just mentioned Muth in there, the horse who won the San Vicente second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Saw he's listed as a probable for the Rebel Stakes at Oaklawn, so he may be heading out of town for that one. He was listed by Churchill Downs in their Derby Dispatch this week as a probable for the Rebel Stakes. So want to keep an eye on there when he hits the road. All right, that's going to wrap up our handicapping for this weekend. A ton of stuff going on with Express Bet and First Bet. Again, the $25,000 hit and split in the Fairgrounds All Stakes Pick 5. The final 5 races on the card there. Be sure to play that. And in our handicapping contest this weekend, we got the $500 Santa Anita Challenge, those $40 feeders all weekend. And your chance to beat me and beat the host. It's a $50 tournament, $5 $5 win bets. The contest, final 5 races on the card Saturday at Gulfstream, first 5 races on the card Saturday at Santa Anita. Hopefully you can take me down. And we've got one player trying to earn that $6,000 sweep. Alexander Bertram, good luck to you this Saturday and against Eddie Olczyk next week in the 8th and final week. 635 players have already qualified for the Beat the Host final coming up the second week of March. So congrats if you're already qualified in the contest. But if you've already qualified, keep playing. We've got $2,000 in weekly prizes up for grab. And, of course, the seasonal leaderboard where you can move up and earn more prizes there as well. So even if you're qualified for that final, be sure to play this weekend. I'll give you a little hint. I've got my picks right now the way it looks. I've got a 10-1, a 15-1, and 3 5-1 shots in the morning line. So that's 5 prices out of the 10 races on Saturday. We'll see how all the picks shake out after we see scratches tomorrow and final weather. But the early handicapping is done, Jeff. I'm just looking forward to a big day tomorrow.
Well, it's not only great racing, and we've got some really interesting racing and with quality horses, but it's good gambling too. And as you pointed out, I mean, you don't have to hit every one of those long shots. 1 or 2 would be fine, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And looking over the series of races, and there were a number of races that we didn't handicap here simply because we don't have enough time, and we always go 8 deep and that's it. But I mean, at Fairgrounds, I mean, that whole card is fantastic. And so we're looking at that. We got Santa Anita out here in my backyard. I'll be doing the full card analysis and wagering strategies there on Express Bet if you want to just play Santa Anita. But good racing and high quality racing, good sporting racing.
Yeah.
So
2 Sunday notes for you. The Sunland Park Derby is on Sunday with Kentucky Derby qualifying points. For more handicapping of that, be sure to check out John White's weekly blog as he looks at both the Risen Star and the Sunland Derby and his suggestions for the Kentucky Derby future wagers. So check out John's blog at expressbet.com and at news.first.com. And also on Sundays, the Hyacinth Stakes from Tokyo, where there are Road to the Kentucky Derby Japan points on the line. 5 different horses in that race are Triple Crown nominated. So this one looks like it could be a springboard towards coming to America. Check that out. The Hyacinth Stakes on Sunday from Tokyo. That race, of course, you can watch and wager on it with Express Bet and First Bet as well. Huge weekend of racing, coast to coast pick 5 Saturday and Sunday. Everything, all the trimmings, if you will, for a great handicapping weekend with us at Express Bet and First Bet. On behalf of my partner, Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great weekend. Good luck in all the preps, and we will talk to you on Tuesday on It's Official.